In this video, I'm going to be documenting my trip to Japan, and spoiler alert, there's going to be a lot of character cafes in this video. And also apologies if my pronunciation of my Japanese is wrong, which it probably will be. Also to note, I've been to Japan before, about 8 years ago, so it'd be good to see what has changed, and I'll also be going with my daughter on this trip as well. Firstly, I had to think about what I should bring for my trip. I have tons of handheld consoles, but which should I choose? And this is going to sound like Goldilocks and Three Bears, some handhelds has its pros and cons. The Steam Deck was my immediate choice. The screen size and the full-size controller buttons would make it feel like a proper gaming experience, but the size was far too big and we were planning not to overload our suitcases. Then I thought the Miyoo Mini Plus would be a good choice. It's a lot smaller in size and I'll be able to catch up on my retro gaming library, but it lacked the power to play any other game. And I could always use my phone to play these types of games, albeit with touchscreen controls. Or some Nintendo Switch gaming. Or I could try the Anbernic RG Nano. What about the Pi Boy for the PS Vita? Seems like a good choice for some. I went with the GPD Win 4. It's a decent size for the suitcase, it's powerful enough to play AAA games, as well as some retro games, and it's essentially a laptop. Day 1. Flight day. Getting the afternoon flight to Dubai, I managed to get some retro gaming in. The onboard entertainment was basically mobile games and actually worked pretty well with the controller, but playing a AAA game like Spider-Man on a plane made my journey that much quicker. The flight was delayed and we had to connect to another flight to Haneda. When we landed, it was already midnight, so there wasn't anything to do aside from sleeping at a hotel. Day 1 in Japan was toy heaven for my daughter, so the Rilakkuma store was the first on the list, and probably 20 other toy stores on that day. Then exploring the area we stayed at in Ginza. Unfortunately no gaming, aside from my daily Street Fighter duel on the phone. Day 2, and still suffering from jet lag, we soldiered on to Akihabara, or Electric Town. Here you'd find anything from electronic stores, to arcades, to gashapon or capsule machines, to dog and rabbit cafes, to maid cafes. Our main reason for going was for the arcades, or the claw machines to be precise. My daughter loves the Pom Pom Purin from Sanrio, so any Pom Pom Purin claw machines I had to win. Let's just say that day was pretty expensive. The win ratio is noticeably higher compared to the ones in the UK, but it definitely feels like I was spending a lot more than I should have. The arcades themselves have several floors, each specialising in different things such as online games, rhythm games and retro games. I gravitated more to the retro games and memories came flooding back to when I was playing these games. Here's a small clip of some Street Fighter 3 and some TMNT with my daughter. Day 3. Let's not talk about day 3. I was pretty much bedbound the whole day. Feeling ill and tired, I wasn't in any state to go out, but I did have my GPD to play with. Day 4, we caught the Shinkansen train to Kyoto. Trying to hydrate myself from being ill, by far the best drink was Calpico. London's Chinatown used to have this, but I don't see it anymore. So if anyone out there knows where I can get hold of this, and not the fizzy one, or the concentrated one, please leave a comment down below. Taking a bus ride to a fish market, where food stalls adorned the market with local delicacies. About a 20-minute walk from the market, we arrived at a shopping centre, and at the top floor they had a Nintendo store, which was first of many Nintendo stores we went into. They had these awesome gashapon machines that made sounds as you pushed the button. Upstairs from the store, there was a photo opportunity with Mario. We finished the day with some ramen. This one in particular, Ichiran, had separate booths where you don't need to interact with the chef or anyone around you. Day 5 was Universal Studios, and just as a pre-warning, if you don't want to be spoiled with Nintendo World, please skip ahead in this video. So as you can see, the weather was absolutely terrible. Apart from being raining, it was also hot and humid, so some of the rides and performances were unfortunately closed. So the day was pretty much spent walking from one theme shop to another. When you get to the park, you would need to book a time slot for you to go into the Nintendo World Park, so being early really does make a difference. Going through a water pipe, you're greeted inside Peach's castle, and as you go outside it feels like everything is a lot closer together, but the landscape is so picturesque, it's almost as if you're standing in the level of a Mario game. And yes, I did get those wristbands with which you need to pair with your phone and earn points for your team by interacting with objects around the park. Like this Mario jumping impression. One of the rides, or the only ride we managed to queue for, was the Yoshi ride. It took almost an hour, but was made shorter by having some interactive elements whilst you're waiting. The ride itself was awful, only due to the weather. Sitting in the cart whilst it was pouring with rain wasn't my idea of fun. The ride lasted a few minutes whilst your Yoshi cart glides through a track, and I must say, it was nice to see how much effort was put into a life-size model of Yoshi's Island. There is a button in the cart which you have to press when you see a Yoshi egg. The rest of the time was spent going into Mario themed stores, like this Mario Motors, which obviously house Mario Kart related toys. On day 6, went to Ghibli Park, which was around a 2-hour trip from where we were staying. The park was so big, we had to get a bus to get to the Totoro section. Walking through this amazing park, you'll soon arrive at the Kusakabe family house. It was an amazing replica, which I unfortunately couldn't film inside. Walking up a hill, you'll be greeted with a friendly Totoro playhouse, where kids can go inside. Heading back to the main park, we caught a cat bus, which really made the whole day for me. Inside the Ghibli building, it felt like a massive celebration of all things Ghibli, with replica buildings, life-size models, and themed areas for a little photo opportunity. But be expected to queue up. This was by far a place you need the whole day to explore. So again, do try to get there early. And yes, they had a cat bus you can go inside. Exploring outside, there are different parts such as Princess Mononoke and Kiki's delivery service, and a life-size model of Howl's moving castle, which again I couldn't film the inside of. Day 7, we took the Shinkansen train back to Tokyo, but before that we made a brief stop at a Rilakkuma shop and cafe. Overall, I think the only thing I regret not spending more time doing whilst we were in Kyoto was the Ghibli Park, especially Howl's area. So some advice if you were to go is to get there early as you can, because there is so much to see and to take in. Day 8, we went to Sanrio Puroland, with its vibrant colours and Sanrio characters everywhere you turn. Let's just say if you don't like Hello Kitty, stay away from here. We first of all got the fast track tickets to the boat ride, which was surprisingly long. Just imagine It's a Small World from Disneyland but replaced with Sanrio characters. That was basically it. My daughter's favourite Sanrio character is obviously Pom Pom Purin, and they had a meet and greet with the characters. For me, it was a little strange. It was like meeting a famous person, but it's just a person dressed up in costume. Nonetheless, my daughter had a great time. Heading back, we had some time to kill, so we went to Diver City in Kyoto City. Unfortunately, we didn't do the arcades, but we did manage to catch the Gundam light show, and it did not fail to impress. On day 9, we went to Harajuku. I always thought this place as London's Camden Town. It has some quirky shops and a sense of liveness to the area. I missed out on the Cat and Pig Cafe in the morning as I was still feeling a little rough, but in the afternoon we had some lunch at my daughter's favourite character cafe, Pom Pom Purin. And just round the corner there was Gashapon Center, which I thought would be Capcom themed, but to my surprise there was only one Street Fighter machine and the rest was random characters, so I was pretty disappointed with the shop as a whole. On day 10, we went to the Shirohige's Cream Puff Factory, which is a Totoro-themed cafe renowned for its Totoro-shaped cream puffs. By the time we left, there was a long queue. So again, if you're planning to go, make sure you get there early. Downstairs had a small shop where you can buy some cream puffs, as well as other biscuits and treats to take away. On a very early day 11, we had to make our way to Disneyland Tokyo. There was a themed Disney train that took you to the park. We didn't actually go to the main Disney park and opted to stay at DisneySea, which is the only one in the world. Here we was greeted by Chip. Walking through the park, they had built a mini Venice, gondolas included, and not really the Disney park I was expecting, until you explore further in, with towering stone sculptures of Disney characters, new and old, and themed areas such as Arendelle. For some of the rides, you would have to use the app to reserve a time slot for you to queue up, or you would need a certain ticket to be able to reserve a slot. So unfortunately, we only went on one ride, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I'm not gonna lie, it did make me jump at one point. Day 12, we travelled an hour to get to Asakusa to see the Sensoji temple. Walking shoulder to shoulder, the market area was really crowded, but it was a chance for my wife and daughter to dress up in kimonos. Afterwards, we took a train to Shibuya to see Harajuku. It's also strange to see that people have made a queue instead of crowding around Harajuku. I think that's for the better. Hungry or hangry at this point, we were trying to find a sushi restaurant that we went to before. Realising they rebranded and moved somewhere else, we managed to find it. Ordering food is done via the tablet and is sent down by this conveyor belt. I'm ecstatic that they still have this sushi burger. A few minutes walk, we arrived at the Parco Plaza, where it housed a Nintendo Pokemon and Capcom store. As you've probably noticed, there are some blur spots around my footage. I think this was because I had dropped the camera and made a few scratches on the lens cover. Out on the balcony, there was an 8-bit Mario model for a photo opportunity. And to end the day, my daughter had a quick game of Mario Kart, where she beat me.
Did you just win?
And some Street Fighter 6, where she beat me again. But redeemed myself by playing against the computer. On day 13, we went back to Akihabara for some more claw machines, and then I went to a store called Hard Off. Yes, I agree, it's not a great name, but it's a store that houses a lot of electronics, and a store I really wanted to check out. From a lot of YouTubers that I follow, Hard Off should have a lot of retro consoles. Unfortunately, this one didn't, and I left pretty disappointed. Literally just next door, there was another shop that pretty much sold everything, including more retro consoles. I was mainly looking for handheld consoles, I wasn't able to find much. Disappointed, I knew something that would cheer me up, and that's Time Crisis 2, by far my favourite shoot 'em up. On the last day, we took our last stop at Sunshine City, which honestly, I felt we should have spent a day there. Aside from all the shops, it looks like there were attractions we could have used our time to go to. Our last cafe was the Sanrio Cafe, and obviously there was over an hour's queue. So I spent the time playing Ocarina of Time 3DS on my phone, with everything decorated in Sanrio characters, including the food. On the same day, we were happy to leave the torrential rain behind, but sadly had to say goodbye to Japan. But seriously UK, please bring back Calpico. Hope you enjoyed this video guys, and thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!